Big thanks to EA and Respawn for inviting me to check out Apex Legends Season 23 a little bit early. Hey everyone, today we're going to take a quick look into what is on the way for the next season of Apex, which is called From the Rift. From some crazy Lifeline reworks, unbelievably massive support class changes, some new Apex ranked information, to switching up pubs with Relic rifts. I'll also give my overall thoughts on the current state of the game, and I'm not going to lie, I'm a little lukewarm in the overall amount of content that we are going to get in Season 23, but let's start it off with Lifeline Revived. Lifeline has been revived from the Rift, and in a really big way. Respawn has adjusted pretty much all of her kit to help her fulfill and maintain the combat medic fantasy by tweaking some existing things and removing some things that were really just not fulfilling the promise of that combat medic playstyle. Lifeline does also have an entirely new look while still maintaining her core appearance. Note the robot arm, and we are apparently going to get a little teaser onto what has happened in the near future, but I was not given any details on that as of the posting of this video. Alright, so let's get into the actual details. Her ability changes, starting with her passive. Yes, rejoice, Lifeline does still have her combat revive. Nothing has changed with this, but Lifeline does also now have an additional passive ability where she can actually grab onto her DOC drone and glide through the air. This is going to open up Lifeline to be a little bit more aggressive in pushes, reinforcing the combat medic playstyle. Basically, this works in a way where the drone has some fuel. As you jump, you can flow with it, and you can activate and deactivate the drone until you do run out of fuel, which you will then need to wait for the fuel to recharge, which is only going to happen when your feet are on the ground. This is going to be a lot of fun, and honestly, she's going to be the most picked legend for quite some time, I have a feeling. For Lifeline's tactical, the healing drone is mostly unchanged, but now the drone can be attached to an ally and follow that specific ally while they move around. It's still going to heal multiple allies in its radius. Lifeline just now has the ability to be more mobile with her healing and support. Lifeline can also reassign who the DOC drone is attached to, which is pretty awesome, and honestly, this is kind of what I always wanted for the healing drone. Where things start to get really interesting is going to be Lifeline's ultimate ability, which in some sad ways sees the removal of the care package. Respawn stated that it felt outdated and it was not upholding her core combat medic traits. Now Lifeline's ultimate throws a DOC halo, which is a huge ring-shaped unbreakable shield, much like the old days of Lifeline's passive revive shield, but now it's more supportive for the entire team rather than just the individual person being revived. Additionally to the impenetrable barrier, any player who is inside the ring gets fast heals, and this can be both friendlies and enemies. This is also a slight throwback to the real OG Lifelines out there, as upon Apex Legends release, Lifeline's passive was actually using heals 50% faster. The biggest thing to note about Lifeline's ultimate is that it is open to the above, which means certain ultimates like Gibby or Fuse, and general grenade usage is still going to be a threat to teams that are inside this ultimate halo. As for my thoughts on these changes, I am very happy that these changes are happening. I think Apex does need some really big gameplay shakeups, and it absolutely feels like for Lifeline, she is going to be reaching her peak potential. I do see Lifeline being a very strong ranked option, as she has a ton of capability to keep the team up now and also keep them healthy and provide some emergency cover as you are going to need it. That's pretty much it for Lifeline's specific changes, but we are not done yet with the support legends, as Respawn has coined this season the season of support, and rightfully so, as all of Apex Legends support legends are getting some really nice buffs. The first is that every support legend gets the ability to revive their friendlies 25% faster, just straight up. This is going to make them truly the premier revive legend. But on top of this, if a support legend performs a successful revive, friendlies will immediately start health regeneration, basically meaning all you gotta do is pop a battery or shields and you're gonna be good to go. Second to this, every support legend gets a heal expert perk, which means they have no slowdown when they are using healing items, and this sounds absolutely crazy. You'll be able to heal up and rotate all while being much faster than most of the other legends, and if this was all not enough, support legends now get double heals with small heals. So syringes and cells will heal double, which basically gives every support character a built-in gold armor, if you remember how that used to give you double heals. And we still are not done. Whenever a support legend gets eliminated, they automatically now get a mobile respawn in their death box. This means you will always have the option to revive any support legend if they do get fully killed and you win the fight. Plus, mobile respawns also don't have to be called in anymore. They just appear on the ground, speeding up the revive and making it less obvious to the entire server as to what is happening. One small trade-off is that support legends no longer have the exclusive ability to craft banners. This is now open to all legends, so you do not have to pick a support legend solely for this feature, which I honestly think is fine, but it probably will net more teams to disengage from fights to conserve RP and ranked losses, which should make endgames a little bit busier, which I think is is good. In my eyes, it's a no-brainer now. All squads need to have a support legend, maybe even a couple of them. The amount of viability they give to reset is too huge to pass up, and even more so than this, it's more vital than ever to have a support legend be the one to perform the revive, so it's both faster and the friendly gets that critical health regeneration. Before we move on to weapon changes, there's a few more legend changes I do want to discuss. One, Gibraltar's Dome Shield sees a massive cooldown reduction by almost half, all the way down to 17 seconds from 30 seconds. Also, his upgrades are tweaked to have the option to increase the dome size, and he also has an upgrade to increase his movement speed with shotguns. Plus, his Dome Shield now should be stronger, as Respawn stated something along the lines of Maggie will not be able to counter him as well as she has in the past. They were kind of ambiguous with this, so I don't have too much more to report on this for now. As for Conduit though, her passive now works to get to downed allies faster, crafters, and respawn beacons, plus death boxes of allied teammates. All these have the range removed as well, so she will be a lot quicker to get to the team and perform the various supportive actions that she can do. Since Lifeline is seeing sizable buffs and changes, Newcastle was also addressed in some big ways. His tactical mobile shield no longer takes damage, making it invulnerable, and he can also control it while he is knocked. Plus, his base knockdown revive shield sees a 50% increase in health per tier, which is a simple buff, but honestly, really massive. Personally, I thought they needed to reduce the amount of health of that knockdown revive shield, but I am guessing the Lifeline changes made them buff it instead, so here we are. Since some of Newcastle's upgrades have been incorporated into the support class as a whole, some of them are no longer relevant, so he does have a few upgrade tweaks. For one, he now has an upgrade to allow him to move knocked allies faster during a revive, and when he places the castle wall down, all allies nearby get 15 seconds of shield regeneration, which could be a pretty big deal depending on how much total this is going to be. The last thing I want to mention is that Mirage is supposedly getting some buffs, but Respawn did not give any details. I'm really hoping it's the health bar thing, so you can't pick out that Mirage super easily. We will have to wait and see when we do get the patch notes, but this is kind of my guess as to what it is going to be. There is a fair amount of weapon changes that are coming in Season 23 of Apex, but the amount of details and specifics that were given to us during my presentation were pretty limited. However, the Havoc is going into the care package, and the Devotion does come back to the ground. The Devotion gets some baseline buffs from what was previously, as there is no turbocharger hop-up anymore. I expect this to be a fairly sizable buff, and as for the Havoc, this is probably going to be instant meta, which for me kind of stinks, as I feel like before Season 23, we were in a Havoc meta for almost a year, I believe it was, so I would have liked to see something else go into the package to get a different type of meta, but here we are. Havoc meta is going to reign supreme again. For the Rampage and the Sentinel, they do get a charge buff, which is going to allow you to shoot more of the upgraded version for longer before you do have to recharge it again. The L-Star sees some visual recoil changes to make it more or less easier to use, plus the Spitfire is going to get a damage buff, and I'm really starting to expect LMGs to shine a little bit more than they have in the past. They continue to buff them, as I think Respawn wants the mid-range meta to be a little bit different than the Hemlock Nemesis or other AR spam that we have been in for a while. No real specifics, but the Longbow is getting buffs to fulfill the Sniper fantasy. I expect these to be pretty big, but again, no specific numbers. The P20 Akimbo gets an accuracy buff, and I do expect this to be honestly way better, so you can't compete or even be better than the Mozams and other shotguns, as I think the P20s were notably underperforming in straight time to kill against the Mozambiques, although honestly I think the P20 Akimbos have always been slept on a little bit. We will have to see how the P20s do in the next season, and no specific details were given other than them saying hop-ups are getting buffed. As for game mode adjustments and other events this season, Pub Modes gets a fairly interesting new system that is called Rift Relics, hence the name of the season. There's going to be a lot to explore with rifts, but basically, when playing with a variety of pub modes, cosmic rifts have opened in the sky, which does spawn, and I quote, additional exceptional loot on the ground. There's going to be an assortment of new weapons and items in here, and this actually does include the Titanfall Launcher EPG-1, and per Respawn, this weapon is an heirloom rarity. It's the first launcher in the game. Honestly, I expect it to be very good, as it's not on the ground, and it does come from a rift. The only additional information I can give is that Rift Relics have over 25 items in their loot pool, from these apparently new or buffed weapons to even items that you can't equip in the survival slot, a lot like Trick or Treat Treos and other past modes. You can pick up these survival slot items to boost your kit and give you additional ways to play, such as the ability to float off the ground. We could see other Legends abilities in here as well. I wish I could give more information on the system, but frankly, what they said to us is they want us to explore it and learn it as we go on, which I think is fine, but I also think because it is a fairly tame add-on, and I think it is only in pubs, not in ranked. For my thoughts on the Rift Relic system, I'm not really sure. I like that there's new items in the game, but without more information or really trying it, it feels really gimmicky at the moment. There will be some exploration to be had to find out what is best, and I believe Respawn will be adding or tweaking this as the season goes on, so we could see the items in the Rift Relics changing like weekly or every other week. This is just what I am guessing though. Having more changes is absolutely welcomed, and they did state that they do want to change the game more frequently rather than us having to wait entire seasons to get some sort of update. However, I will say I don't love the fact that when you are going to go into a fight now in pubs, you're going to have no idea what boost kit a player has since it is in the survival slot. This is going to add even more randomness and RNG to the game in terms of what power item you're going to get or go up against, which I just do not like. However, and on the other side of things, it is pubs. It should be a little bit more catered to being fun, but with the way the current matchmaking or skill-based matchmaking or SPMM is, the game is super sweaty as hell. So it doesn't really matter because at least for my lobbies or average to upper skilled players, everyone's going to be using what is meta and just run it down. So there really is not a lot of room for fun exploration of other things due to the matchmaking. So this system feels extremely contradictory to the way the game is played, and honestly, just a little bit frustrating. I kind of like that it's only in pubs, but also at the same time, this means we are not really getting much in terms of the rank changes in gameplay beyond the legend and weapon changes. So with that, let's talk about ranked Apex Legends. Respawn stated that this season is seeing some updates that will create the foundation for future updates, which is kind of jargon for there's not really a lot to see this season. They stated that ranked Apex will be grouping players more so based on similar skills when the reset of ranked happens, which should mean you shouldn't get reset as far as you have in the past. There should be less group mixing as well, which sounds good, but I will believe it when I see it. We've heard this song and dance before. I am a little jaded with ranked at the moment. The mode really hasn't progressed in any meaningful way in 4+ years now due to systems being tried and then scrapped, making the mode feel very stagnant. The entry costs for Platinum, Diamond, Masters are being reduced to 45, 65, and 90 respectively. And I think the coolest new feature for Season 23 is the fact that we will now get a graph of every single player's rank in the lobby, so you'll be able to visually see where everyone is in terms of their rank. I think this is really cool, and it does provide a nice amount of transparency to see the rank of every player in the lobby, and I can't wait to see some gold players in those pred lobbies and vice versa. But in all seriousness, this is a good thing and a good system to have, and the biggest reason for implementing this is that Respawn can more easily see the issues now and hopefully fix and tweak ranked to make it a more fair experience and fun experience for all. There's also apparently plans to do a similar system in pubs, but not in Season 23. For cheaters and other game updates, Respawn stated they are continuing and always trying to work on cheaters. I quote, "It's their biggest priority." And as for game updates, Respawn wants to make more changes more frequently. We've heard this as well in the past, but I am optimistic that we will be getting more significant meta changes over the seasons and maybe even in the mid-season. The desire to change and shake up the gameplay loop is high, and I think we could all use faster refreshes of Apex as the gameplay loop is absolutely dated, being almost 6 years old. So I kind of hinted at this at the start, and you'll notice there's a pretty big elephant in the room, and I am going to go on a little rant here, but when I started the video, I went straight into legend changes. This means yes, there are no map changes, no new weapon, and no new legend. There was even a question asked during the presentation that I attended of what Respawn's thoughts are on the declining viewership and player base, and they stated that it is a competitive market, which I agree, and they do need new players as the game is 6 years old, and I think they've done a fair job of actually implementing new systems such as mixtape, bot royale, and overall things to help new players. But when you aren't really releasing new content, I don't see how both new and existing players are supposed to stay active with the game. If you look at it this way, when only the most dedicated and hardcore players are still playing because there isn't new content, new players are going to get absolutely dunked on 100 out of 100 times because the matchmaking's player variance and skill levels isn't there because there's not enough players playing the game. You see the problem? The biggest thing with Season 23 for me is that the title of calling it a new season feels slightly artificial. The game needs money, but calling the amount of content that we are about to get a new season feels a little disingenuous. How are we supposed to spend more money on Apex while we aren't really getting content? I still just don't understand how we went from year 2 or year 3 era era where every single season we were getting a new weapon, a new legend, town takeovers, big map changes, and more, to the point where we are now. We haven't gotten a new weapon in 2 years. It took 2 years to get a new map, and we won't have gotten a new legend in 9+ months by the time the season ends. And if I had to be brutally honest here with my feedback, if Respawn is listening, and I know they are listening because I've spoken to them directly, the marketing of the season was pretty non-existent. There was little to no buzz about the season, even just a couple days before its launch. Maybe this is by design, and that's fair. I would have rather if we just had this season, season 22, have 4 splits rather than coining season 23 a new season. And I will state, I do get it from a developer side of things. If there's not a lot happening, let's not waste marketing resources and money, but that's not really the point. There should be more happening, or at least be honest with the overall perception of a new season and the state of the game, and state, hey, we need to take a few months to get things right. Expect more to come in early 2025. There's a lot more we can unpack with the future of Apex Legends, but for now, I'll state to drop a comment down below if you want me to give my overall full thoughts on the game, and I can kind of explain where I think we are going. I'm thinking of sharing this after we get through season 23's launch and we actually get to experience the new season and give it a fair shot, like I always try to do. And at the end of it, I am very excited to check out season 23. I'm just a little disappointed that for the next 90 to 110 days, as the fall to winter seasons are usually longer, the content that we are going to get seems like it is going to be pretty minimal, so I will just state, temper your expectations. As always, I will see you in the next one, and happy gaming, legends.